Alright, Horror Hounds, and welcome to an episode of This Just In. Today we're going to be going over Halloween H20 20 years later. This is a movie they made shortly after Scream, so it is influenced by Scream. This movie also takes 4, 5, and 6 and throws them to the curb, and this is going to be a sequel to part 2. This is the first jump in continuity timeline when it comes to the Halloween movies, but it won't be the last. Alright, so the things that I'm in on in this movie, the first one is the big one. Jamie Lee Curtis comes back to play Laurie Strode. She does a great job reprising the role at this point. I mean, it's been 20 years, and she hadn't really been doing horror lately, but she does a really good job in this movie. She did have some behind-the-scenes things that she kind of influenced, which was better for the movie in the long run. We'll get to that in a little bit, or it might be into the next film when I talk about that one. Another thing I'm going to give as an in on this movie is the acting in general. I believe everybody pretty much does a good job. Laurie, obviously, Jamie Lee Curtis is great in that spot. You have Josh Hartnett plays her son. So instead of her having a daughter, that's wiped away, and now she has a son. He does a good job in his role, and so do his friends. Even in the beginning, when you get Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he plays like a little punk-ass kid who tries to help out the nurse when her house is broken into. And he plays that role pretty good and has like a little snarky humor kind of line in there. And he has a pretty cool death as well. Another thing in this movie that I would say is in it is Michael Myers himself. I do like the actor who plays him in this one. So he does a good job. Michael has more of that traditional stalk, but he does move with a little bit quicker pace. And he does a good job in the stalking, the scenes where he's killing. Everything looks good. He does a good job. It kind of gives him a little bit of a menacing part in it. Then going off of that, the kills in this movie. This one does dial it back compared to what some of the later entries had done. Like I believe 5 and 6 kind of piled them in there a little bit. This one has a little bit less, but they are very good kills. Like I said, with was it Joseph Gordon-Levitt? He gets the skates through his face. That scene always looks good. We get a traditional throat slit. We get the girl who gets her leg like snapped by the dumbwaiter. And then she gets killed and we see her hanging. I always liked that scene. It kind of reminded me of the first kill in Scream when Casey Becker's hanging from the tree. And then there's a few more kills in here that are pretty good as well. Another in for me is the cinematography for this movie. Everything in it looks pretty good. Even the changing of the setting, leaving Haddonfield and going to California and going to like a boarding school type of situation. All that looks good when it's shot. And one of my favorite scenes in this movie is when Michael's traveling across the country and he needs to get rid of the nurse's car that he stole, and he goes into the bathroom on a rest stop, which has just a woman with her daughter in there. And they build up the tension really good in that, and he winds up just stealing her purse and taking off with the vehicle instead of, killing a little girl. Another in for me in this movie is the score. I think they do a good job with the music throughout the whole movie, and they do a little bit of it's kind of like John Carpenter's original score, but it's got its own little flavor to it. And then the last thing I'm in on in this movie is the ending. This is probably by far my favorite ending in any Halloween movie. If you've watched it, you know Laurie Strode is finally vanquished Michael Myers, But she doesn't think he's dead. Yes, I believe she stabbed him a bunch of times, and then the paramedics. He's going to be leaving in the paramedic vehicle, and she steals an axe from a fireman and takes that vehicle. And then when Michael's waking up and coming out, they end up crashing, and he falls out and flies into a tree while this van's just a flipping and smashes right into him. And then she's trying to talk to him as he seems incoherent, and he feels like he might take his mask off, but he doesn't. And then he's reaching his hand out to her, like asking her to help him. And she swings that axe and cuts his head clean off. We hear the music of famous Halloween music and credits. So that's probably the best ending in any of these movies. It's kind of one of those like definitive. We killed Michael. We're not going to talk about what happens in the next one yet. Things that I'm mixed on. The plot, I was a little mixed on. I do like this movie's plot for the most part, but I do feel like there is some things that are a little too convenient. Like the fact that Lori now lives in California and Michael is in Haddonfield. And somehow, some way, he knows exactly how to get to California from Haddonfield, and he knows that she's in California. Okay, I know he wants to kill his sister. That's been proven in part 2. But he just gets in a car and he starts driving. Like, he knew exactly where to go. And I don't know. It was convenient that he got there fast because that helps the movie pace, right? Another one for me was the fact that on the same day that he's going to show up for Halloween, magically all these kids in this school are leaving to go to Yosemite Park for like a little overnight trip. So that helps free the school up. So there's not a lot of kids there for the slashing. Wish they would have kept a few more behind just to, kind of kill a few more people. But that always seemed a little convenient that fell on the same day as well. And then how Michael gets in there is because LL Cool J gets distracted and he has his back to him and he just walks right by. He's not running. He's not quiet, tiptoeing. He just walks in, like it's all fine. I just thought, man, for Michael to break into this school, you'd think it'd be something epic. Nope. Just LL Cool J doesn't turn around. And then another thing I'm mixed on in this movie is the humor. Some humor lands, some doesn't. That's why it's mixed. It's not an overkill of humor in my eyes. I do know that this is after the Scream was such a big success, and this was written by Kevin Williamson, who also wrote Scream. So he's going to have kind of that same meta humor in there in moments of it. And like I said, some hits, some doesn't. All right, now to the outs. In this movie, I'm only out on one thing and one thing only. And that's the fact that in some of the scenes, Michael Myers has a CGI mask. And you can see it. And it is terrible CGI now because this movie's made in 1998. So you can imagine in 2022, the CGI is a lot better now than it was then. And we still see movies today that come out and the CGI looks like shit. They did the best they could. I guess it was something like post-production. They added like a scene in, so then they had to fake a mask on the guy. But, yeah, it doesn't look good. Not at all. But other than that, the mask does look good in this movie. It's not great, but it's better than the masks in 4 and 5. But that's not really a high bar to climb. Alright, so my overall thoughts on this film. This film came out 3 years after The Curse of Michael Myers, and it feels like it was made 10 years after Curse of Michael Myers. Curse kind of stuck to the same old flavor flav a little bit, kind of. Like they did their own thing, and it was much better looking than 4 and 5. But it does feel like there was like an era that just happened in that 3 year span. I don't know if better cameras came out or what, but it does. It just looks a lot better. Um, like I said, I like all the acting in this. Even Michael is played well. Laurie Strode comes back, plays her character very well. Um, Josh Hartnett being in here and him with his friend and his friend's girlfriend and his girlfriend, they all do a pretty good job in this movie. So my only thing I didn't like was the mask when they did the CGI scenes. Other than that, the mask is fine, and the plot does move along fairly decent. And that ending is awesome. Like I said, by far the best ending. So my rating on this movie is 4.5. I give this one to be right up there with 4 and the original. And this one I think has rewatchability in it because, like I said, it has a good pace. It has an awesome ending. You get Jamie Lee Curtis, now more seasoned, so I feel like she does do a better job than she did like in the original Halloween, which she was great in that. But the character's more like it's been 20 years, so she's fierce every single day. Like she knows every Halloween shit something might happen. So she's weathered, she's torn, and she plays that character well. Right. So if I can have you guys give me a subscribe, a like, comment down below, hit the notification bell so you can find out when the next video comes out. Next one will be Halloween Resurrection. We'll see what my thoughts are on that one. Until then, rest in peace.